3 minutes. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Nice to see you, Lisa Shapiro. I hope you and your family are doing well. We are praying out of Sidor Lev Shalem, and we begin today's service, page 103. Please rise for the Birchot HaShachar, the blessings of the morning. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lasech v'vina lavkin bein yom v'ein laila. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shesani b'tzomo. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shesani ben charin. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Shesani Israel, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Pokeach Ivrim, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Mabi Sharamim, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Matir Asurim, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Zokev Kefufim, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Rekal Haaretz al Hamayim, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Hamechin mitzadei gaver, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Shas alikot tzarki, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Oz Yisrael b'gvura, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Ot Yisrael b'tifara, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Hanotein layoev koach, Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Uteneinu hayom v'chayom l'chin l'chesed rachem b'menecha v'nechoen v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim Baruch et Adonai gomer chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. You may be seated. We continue page 112, Psalm 92. Hayom yom Shabbat kodesh hayu halviim omrim b'veit hamikdash mizmor shir l'yom haShabbat. Od Yenuvun Beseva de Shinim Chanim Yulagit Yeshanait Surivalo Avlatabo. And we continue page 120. Ms. Morshir Chanukat Baile David. Hafacht mispril macholi pitaktis hakivas genisimcha laman yizmecha vedveloidam Adonai Elohai lelam odeka. We rise, page 122. Baruch she'amar ve'yaulam baruchum Baruch Yosef Reshit Baruch Mehev Yosef Baruch Gozerum Kayem Baruch Mirachim al Haaretz Baruch Mirachim al Habriot, Baruch Mishalim Sachar Dov L'Rehav, Baruch Chai V'Kayam LaNetzach, Baruch V'Nematzia Baruch Shemo, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Yachid Chel Mi Melech Mishabach V'Desh Magado Baruch Et Adonai Melech V'Hulal Batishbach. You may be seated. Page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitech Od Yulachasel Hashem Shkach Alo Hashem Sh'nai Elav Dilala David. Tila Tadonai Debar Pivi Varek Kobasashim Kachalelam Edvanachne Nevarech Yamiatav Yalam. Hallelujah. Page 141. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'kadsho, hallelujah, b'kiyauzo, hallelujah, v'gvurotav, hallelujah, karav, gudlo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, b'teka shofar, hallelujah, b'neva v'chinor, hallelujah, b'tof u'machol, hallelujah, b'minim v'hugav, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, v'tziotz le'shama, hallelujah, v'tziotz le'trua, kol en shama te'aliyah, hallelujah, 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 kol en shama te'aliyah, hallelujah, kol hanshama te'aliyah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen v'amen. Baruch Hametzion shchein Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael sednif le'levado. U'baruch Shem kavodo li'olam v'yamelech v'et koharetz. Amen v'amen. Page 145. Nishmat kochai tivarech et shimecha Adonai Eloheinu. Mid melach umishvelach umiaharoch lach oil agedol gibor v'hanora el elyon kanei shamayim avaret nehallel lachon shebechacha unfarchen v'rechet shem hakodeshecha kamor leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai v'chol keravai et shem kodesho ha'er b'tazim ozecha gadol b'chavod shemecha Hagibor lenetzach v'menorotecha Hamelech hayoshev hal kiseram v'nisa Shochen admarom v'hikadosh shemo V'chatu ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai L'sharim navatihila B'fi sharim titalau Uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach Uvilshon chasidim titromam, uvikerev kedoshim tikadash, umakalot rebavot machobet Yisrael. Lodahod lehalehu leshabeach, lefarle remem lade leverek lalelo kales. Al kol divrei shirot v'tishbachot, David ben Yishai havdecha meshichecha, yishtabach shimecha la'ad malkeinu. Berachot ve'hodot mi'atav ulam baruch Adonai el melech gadol batishbachot, elodot Adonai niflaot, Habocher b'shirei zimara melechel cheolamim. And we continue with Shacharit. We begin on page 149. Please rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai amevorach, Baruch Adonai barach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, yotzer v'recho shechoseh shalom v'rei et hakol. You may be seated. Page 150. Hakol yoduch v'hakol yishabechucha. Ein kerchach Adonai Eloheinu b'olam hazeh v'yein zulun machen l'chayehu l'olam haba. Efes b'tachol goleinu mot HaMashiach v'yein tov melech HaMoshienu l'tchiyat ha'metim. Adon al kol ha'masim baruch umvarach b'fi kol nishama gadol v'tuvo malei olam dat Udvuna sova vimoto Hamid goel chayot kodesh v'neder bechavod al merkava zechutum nishar lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lifnei chavodo atovim miyorot shebar Eloheinu yetzaram bedat bevina uvaskel koach ugvura Natan bahem liod moshlim bekerev tevel Malem ziv mafikim nogan ziv michol haolam Semechim betzeitam v'sasim bevoam Osim b'yem maretzon gonam Be'er v'chavod notnim lishmot ala V'rina lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh v'yizrach ocha Ve'iki tzu'atavana Shevak notnim lo kol tzava maron Tiferet u'gedula Serafim ve'yofanim v'chayot HaKodesh Elai lalai Yalai lai lai yalai lalai Yalalai lalai 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 lai 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 Yalai lalai 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 lai lai. Page 152. לא אלא ששבת מכל המשים ביום השביעית עליו וישב על כיסא כבודו. תברך מושיענו השבח מעשה ידיך ויאמר שעשיתי יפרעו חסד. Page 153. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו ברי קדושים. וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושת תורה בשירה וזמרה מברכים משבחים פרים מריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שמו אל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה ונודרים רשות זה לזה להקדיש ליוצא בנחת רוח בשפה ורב ונימה קדושה כולם כחנונים ויאמרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו ויופנים וחיות הקודש פרש כדור מנצל מצרפים למתם משבחים ויאמרים ברוך אדוני ממקומו לאל ברוך נמות ייתנו. אור חדש על ציון די ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו אור חדש על ציון די ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר עמיות. Page 154. אהבה רבה אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו חמלה גדולה ותרחמת עלינו אבינו מלכנו בעבור אבותינו שבטחו בך אבינו מלכנו ותלמדנו חוקי חיים כן תחננו תלמדנו אבינו האב הרחמן המרחם רחם עלינו ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע ללמוד וללמד לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה והעננו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ויחד לבבינו לאהבה ויראה את שמך ולא נבוש לעולם ועד ולא נבוש לעולם ועד כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו כי אל פועל ישועתה ובנו בחרת מכוח ולשון וקרבתנו לשמך גדול סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך וקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמוע תשמעו אל מצוותיי. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית הכנה פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו, זכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Bottom page 156. לדובנו קיים ושמו קיים וחיסון נכון מלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת ודברכם. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו יוצרנו צור ישורתנו פוננו מצילנו מעולם שמך. אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא מעולם. Page 158. Ram v'nisa gado v'nora mashpil geim umagbi hashfalim motzi asichim fodenavim v'ozedalim v'on eliamo b'yed shavam elav tehilot le'elad yom bracham vrach Moshe u'Miriam u'v'nei Yisrael chanashira b'simcha rabah ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך פועלים אדוני מי כמוך נדור בקודש נורא תהילות Osefele Shira Chadasha Shibachu Geulim Lashimcha Asafat Hayam Yachad Kulam Odu Vehimlechu V'yameru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Voed Tzur Yisrael Kuma B'Ezrat Yisrael Uvtechinu Mecha Yehuda V'Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzavot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We rise for the Shabbat morning Amidah, beginning together on page 159 for the first 3 brachot, and then continuing for the final 4 brachot through page 166 silently. So we begin together, page 159. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanura El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'zocher chastei avot, v'mei goel lifnei b'neihem l'man shabo b'yahava, melech ozer poked Mashiach Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'poked Sarah, atah gibor le'lam Adonai, mechayem etimato rab lahoshia marid atal, mechakeo chayim bechesed, Mechaye meitin berachamim rabim, samech noflim rofei cholim, umatir asirim umekahayim, emunato lishenei afar, micham mocham bal gevurot, umidom melach melech memid, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'nem'ana talach hayot meitim, baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hameitim. Nikadesh et shimacha ba'olam, kishem shemati shimoto mishmei maron, kakadu v'yad nevi'echa, v'kacha ze el ze v'yamar, kadosh, 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 Adonai tzevot melech haaretz kevodo. Ahaz bekol rash gadol adiv chazak mashmiim kol, nitnasim lematzrafim, lematam baruch yomeh, baruch Adonai minkom. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון? בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך נצח נצחים, קדושך תנקדיש, ושיבחך מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. not completed your Amidah, please continue at your own pace. We will continue with the virtual Torah service beginning on page 168. In the middle of the page, when the ark is open, you may rise. Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'ein k'maasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz li'amo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom avarachamim eitiva v'irtzoncha et Zion tivnecho mod Yerushalayim tivnecho mod Yerushalayim ki vecha levad batachnu melech elcham v'nisa Adon olamim vayehi ben Soharon vayomer Moshe Uma Adonai v'yafutzu oyevecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'davar Adonai mi'Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedusha page 170 Barich Shemei D'Mariam Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushpechan Beyana Rachet Belish Me Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushpechan Yairava Kadamach V'tiftach libi v'yohayeta V'tashlim mishalin belibi V'libo decholamach Yisrael V'tavul chayim V'lishlam Page 171. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai Amema Shemo Yachtav Lecha Adonai Agedula V'Hagevura V'Atiferet V'Anetzach V'Hahod Ki Cho B'Shamayim Uvaret Kicho b'shamayim uvaretz. Lecho Adonai hamamlacha v'yamid nahaseh lecho l'rosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Avehishtachavu lahadam raglav kadoshu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Avehishtachavu lahar kadsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome once again. The Torah portion for this week is Pinchas. And the reading can be found on page 918 in your Etz Ahayem Chumash. This comes from Numbers chapter 25, verse 10. I will chant a couple aliyot and then we'll translate. And I will talk about the portion after we return the virtual Torah. Vayedaber Adonai Moshe lebor Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen Heshiv et chamati me'al ben Israel bekan'o et kinati betocham v'lo chiliti et ben Israel bekinati Lachein emor hineni notein lo et briti shalom. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the Israelites by displaying among them his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. Say, therefore, I grant him my pact of friendship, Briti Shalom, my pact of peace. Do one more. This is Numbers chapter 25, verse 13. Vayetalo zaro acharav brit unat olam tachat asher kinei leilohav vaychaper al bnei Yisrael v'shem ish Yisrael hamukeh asher huka et hamidyanit Zimri ben Salu nesiv et av l'shimoni V'shem Aisha hamuka Hamidyanit Kozbi Vatsur Rosh Umod Beitav B'Midyan Hu. It shall be for him and his descendants after him a pact of priesthood for all time, because he took impassioned action for his God, thus making expiation for the Israelites. The name of the Israelite who was killed, the one who was killed with the Midianite woman, was Zimri, son of Salu, chieftain of a Simeonite and of a Shimon ancestral home. The name of Midianite woman who was killed was Kozbi, daughter of Tsur. He was the tribal head of an ancestral house in Midian. Again, I'm going to talk about this portion in a little bit, so I'm not going to talk about the portion right this moment. Now offer a mishaberach, a blessing for physical, spiritual, emotional healing. Those online, if you would type in the names of those you would like to add to the list. And those in our sanctuary can also add names at the appropriate time. Mi sheberach avotin Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarf Korach of Leo Hu Yivarech v'Rapet et Helen Byrne, Chana Batsari, Marjorie Allen, Charles Miller, Marsha Orange, Leanne Capuano, Virginia Madden, Lynn Scholl, Brooke Ben Elisheva, Kate Bowie, Jeannie Miser, Deanna Barber, Susie Bierman, Elisheva Batsar, Art Sandek, Malka Amster, Bertha Parker, Raymond James Gray, Johnny Sweat, Betty Ehrlich, Michelle Zucker, Billy Canary, the Caldwell family, Nikki Decker, Sheila Decker, Carla Labato, Velma Chori, Rick Garcia, Paul Smith, Marlon Barnes, Davina Machado, Phyllis Carson, Linda Hoffman, Steve Hirschman, Taraz Bat Ruth, Isaiah Santorno, Jerome Lowry, Marcia Hudson, and Rhonda Blitz. Bert.
And Bohm, Doug Shafar.
Yael Bat Nami, Rivka, Sarah Shoshana Bat Nami, Rivka, David Kelman, J. Ackerman. And Corey Bates. Viet Kolchim Bikila, Kadosha, Agudath, Etz Ahayem V'Kila, and Temple Bethor, Kodesh Bochim Alei Rachamim, Aleihem Lachizcham Rapatam Bislach Leimer, Force Leimer Nashmat Nefesh V'Daguf, Betoch Shach Leisrev, Shabbatim Lezokur, Lezokur for Korava Levo Shabbat Lavazman Kariv, Venomar, Amen. I wish all of those suffering physically or emotionally a refuah shlema, a quick and complete healing. We rise to return the virtual Sefer Torah, page 183. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kiddush Gav, Shema Levado, Hodu Haleretz, V'Shamayim, V'Yaren Keren Le'amo, Tehila Lecho, Chasido, B'nei Yisrael Hamkrovo. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Mizmor LeDavid. Havu Ladonai B'nei Yelim, Havu Ladonai Kavod Vos, Havu Ladonai Kavod Shemo, Ishtachavu Ladonai B'Hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai Al-Hamayim Helakavod, Hilim Adonai Amayim Rabim, Kol Adonai Ba'Kova, Kol Adonai Be'adar, Kol Adonai Shaver Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et Alzei Halbanon, Vayarkidem Kemo Egel, Lebanon B'Siryan Kemo Venrehemim, Kol Adonai Chotzev Lavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yecholel Ayalav, Vayechasot Yahod, Ubeichalo Kulo Merkavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashab, Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yivarech et Amo Bashalom. Page 184. Uvnucho Yomah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem Torati al tazovu Etz Ahayem lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar deracheha tarchinoam v'chol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. You may be seated. One of the things that I did during the pandemic was to clear out everything that I had recorded on my DVR for forever. I finally got to catch up on a gazillion programs. I even started watching, at one point I was watching the Best Pictures Oscar-winning movies. And starting from the 20s, I think I made it to the 40s. And then, there was those endless series, which I got to watch. And if I didn't understand something, I would just go watch it again. I think I watched Breaking Bad 3 times. Game of Thrones, of course. Curb Your Enthusiasm. I mean, it goes on and on with a number of programs that I'm sure you all watch too, because we just had the time. In a lot of these series, especially in a lot of these series, there was invariably, they would end on some type of cliffhanger at the end of one season, only to be resolved months later when the series continues. I recalled last night that, do you remember watching a series, and the series would end in the spring, and then you would have to wait till the fall, to figure out what the heck happened. And who can forget the cliffhanger of the ages with the Who Killed JR episode of Dallas. TV producers and writers must have been Bible fans, because there are many Torah portions that end on cliffhangers. This week is the next season episode of last week's cliffhanger. Only had to wait a week. At the end of last week's portion, Balak, the Israelites were dwelling at Shittim. The Moabite women who lived there invited the Israelite men to come and be familiar with them, intending to introduce their idols into Israelite culture, uniting the two peoples. God, being a jealous God, told Moses to gather the ringleaders and have them publicly impaled so that God's wrath will be checked. Just at that moment, an Israelite man brought a Moabite woman in eyesight of Moses and the leadership and took her into his tent. I'm guessing not to play checkers. Pinchas, Aaron's grandson, took a spear, went into the tent, and ran them through as they were coupled. We are told in the text that the plague against the Israelites was checked. End of portion, cliffhanger. The text next continues in this week's portion. We just read the first 2 aliyot. In this week's portion, Pinchas, and not with a dream sequence as with Dallas, but with God saying to Moses that Pinchas has turned back his wrath from the Israelites by displaying among them his passion for me. I now grant my pact of shalom, or peace, or friendship, as it was translated. But the word is shalom. It would appear at first glance that God approved of the actions of Pinchas, who acted as a vigilante and presumed to act in God's name, without due process in a proper Beit Din or in front of Moses' justice system. In our day and age of religious extremism, this whole episode makes our skin crawl, and we cannot understand why God would sanction this act. In fact, it would appear that later commentators were also uncomfortable with this text as well. Evidence for some of this dismay can be found in the word shalom in the text as written by the Masoretes in the 10th century. The Masoretes were those tasked with making sure every Torah scroll was transmitted portion by portion, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and letter by letter, perfectly with no mistakes. In the letter Vav of the word Shalom, there is a break, causing the letter to look like it has two halves with a space between them. Normally, if there is a mistake in the Torah, finding one wrong letter or word or a letter that was flaked off or not whole would invalidate the entire Torah. This is one of those exceptions where a letter is written incorrectly on purpose. But what is that purpose? The Torah scroll has no footnotes, no table of contents, no index, no notes section. The Masoretes left no explanations for these textual oddities. Maybe the Masoretes were saying that the pact of shalom that God was giving to Pinchas was not a complete shalom. Couple that with the observation that I made at the beginning about this story being split between the end of last week's portion and this week's. Maybe what the text is telling us is that when faced with a perceived injustice, don't react right away. Stand back and analyze the situation to ascertain whether rash action is indeed justified, and after careful reflection, then and only then react. If you look at the text carefully, God was clearly upset with the Israelite men in their going after Moabite women and giving in to their idolatrous ways. God clearly told Moses to impale the ringleaders. This is essentially what Pinchas did, not questioning or seeking permission. His zealotry got the better of him, and he indeed was doing the bidding of God. But yet, it still makes us feel uncomfortable. What is it that we are not seeing in this text? One answer can be found if we look at the word shalom in the text, and again focus on the split vav. Rashi and other places where there are textual oddities, such as big or small letters or dots above letters, tells us to interpret the word as if the oddity was not there. So look at the word shalom, eliminate the vav, and interpret from there. If we take the vav from the word shalom, we're left with a different word, shalem, which means whole or complete. So another way of looking at this story is that sometimes an individual can be doing what is right and good in the eyes of God, but still not be achieving wholeness. Our outward actions can and often do tell a very different story from our internal dialogue. The personal, physical, emotional, and intellectual struggles that we negotiate on a daily basis frequently stay buried deep within ourselves. To achieve wholeness, true shlemut, we must find a way to make peace with our internal drives. How many of us react in the moment without reflecting, or what are the consequences of our actions? Sometimes we justify those quick reactions, but never come face to face with what we believe on the inside. So the lesson for me this week is to remind myself to take a breath, stand back, and reflect before I react, before I act. The hardest thing to do is not act on our emotions, on our passions. But to achieve this wholeness, we must stop and consider our surroundings, consider those we love, and act out of true shalom. We should practice a Judaism that seeks shlemut, wholeness, in our relationship, not only with God, but with each other and within ourselves. So rather than solve the issue of today, let it be a cliffhanger. Tomorrow, you might have better insight. Shabbat Shalom. We now continue with Musaf. Please rise, page 185. As we begin, we chant the first three brachot of the Musaf Amidah together, and then you may continue through page 192 for the final four brachot. Again, we begin together, page 185. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanura El Elyon Gomei Chasadim Dovim Lekonei Hakol V'zocher chastei avot, u'mevii goel lefnei b'neihem, l'man shemo b'yahava, melech ozer foked u'mashiach u'magin. Baruch atah Adonai, magin Avraham, u'foked Sarah, atah gibor le'elam Adonai, mechayem itimato, rav l'hoshia, marid atal, mechakel chayim b'chesed, Mechaye metim berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir esurim, umekayim emunato, lishnei afar, micham mocham bal gevurot, umidom elav, melech bemit, umekayim, umatzmiach yeshua, V'ne'emanat alachayot meitim baruch ato Adonai mechayei hametim na'aritzecha v'na'kadishcha kesod siach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha b'kodesh kakatu ayat neviacha V'kara zet v'yamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzavot Melech ha'aretz Kevodo Kevodo Malei Olam Mishoratov Shohalim Zeh lazeh Ayeh Mekom Kevodo Leomatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch V'Adonai Mimkomo Uyifen Berachamim V'Achonam Ham Yachadim Shemo Erev Avoker B'chol Yom Tamid Pamayim b'yava Shema Omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Elohei Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Moshienu Ve'u Yashmienu Verachamav Shenit שנית להן תקוחי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ודברי קדשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהייך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ונצח נצחים, קדושך תנקדיש. ושיבחך מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני, הוי לקדוש. And we continue page 204. Ein Eloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kimhalkeinu, Ein Kimoshienu, Mich Eloheinu, Mich Adonenu, Mich Kimhalkeinu, Mich Moshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, no delim halkeinu, no delim Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Tahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha het ketoret hasamim. We rise as the ark is open, page 205. Aleinu leshabeach v'adon hakol latet keduz hal yotzei bereshit shelo asanu kugoyei aratzot v'lo samanu kamishmachot hadama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרא בשמיים נמל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד Emet Malkeinu, Evazulato, Kakatu, Betorato, Viadatahayam, Vashivota, Elevavecha, Ki Adonai Elohim, Bashamayim Nimal, Viala Aretz Mitachat, Eno, Vedu bedoratech Adonai loch le'lam voed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom mahu yeh Adonai echad u'shamo echad. You may be seated. This week we will observe yahrzeits for Humron Cohen, Harry Feinstein, Morris Joseph Lyon, Fanny Stern, Morris Aronovitz, Simon Franco, Esther Capuano, Jacob London, Vasily Medvedev, Paige Sass, Fanny Snyder, Israel Yelzuda Hassan, Deborah Lang, Jack Werfel, Sidney Goldston, George Cassover, Maurice Mandelkorn, and Richard Stenger. Those observing yahrzeit and those who mourn, please join me on page 207 for the Kaddish Atom, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei rabba b'yoma divra chirutei v'yamlech malchutei b'chayichan v'yamechan v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agalav izman kariv v'yimahu amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'elam omel maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kudisha barichu Elamin kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yoma v'yimahu amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemayim v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimahu amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav uyaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimahu amen. You may be seated. Thank you. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for joining us this morning, both online and in person. We will celebrate the end of Shabbat with Havdalah tonight with the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah via Zoom, and that'll be at 8:30 p.m. It's not really a lot going on this week. A week from tomorrow, Sunday, July 16th at 6 p.m., we will have a memorial service for Stefan Ensler, for Phil Ensler's father who recently passed. We will have a memorial service for him. Again, that'll be next Sunday, July 16th at 5 p.m. here at Agudath Israel, Etz Ahayem. And with that, we will go ahead and conclude our service, page 211, with Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ed Nasa V'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kichlot Hakol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu haya, vehu aveh, vehu yiyeh b'tifara, vehu yiyeh b'tifara, vehu echad v'yein sheni, l'ham shelo le'achdira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, vehu eli, V'chai go'ali, v'tzur chevli, b'yetzara, v'hu nisi umanosli, minat kosi b'yom mekra, minat kosi b'yom mekra, b'yado avkid ruchi, b'yet ishan v'yaira, v'immaruchi geviati, Adonai li v'lo ira, Adonai li